So that's my biggest thing to you guys right now is just don't let everybody's opinion of you. Don't let your value be defined by that, because when you do, you're always going to be chasing it. You're always going to be trying to be better or do different things or try to look different or try to act different. But as soon as we realize that Christ is just our value, when He died on the cross, all of His righteousness came onto us as soon as we accepted Him and believed in Him and put our faith in Him. That's pretty incredible. I mean, it doesn't, at that point, what else matters, you know? What does it matter what people think if you start to talk to them about Christ or show them, you know, how much He's changed your life? To me, that's just, it's so big when you realize what He's done for us. So, I don't know if you guys have any questions. I'd like to answer some questions. I love doing that. That's normally how we do it at the racetrack, and I get used to that. So when I talk, I feel like I start to babble a little bit. So if anybody has any kind of questions right now, I'd love to break it up a little bit, get something, and then I can finish up at the end. Anybody have anything? I've confused everybody. That's awesome. What do you got, man?
I'm in a motorsport program at Lanier Tech, but I would like to ask, because what I want to do eventually is go into NASCAR as a minister. And I was just wondering if you had any insight on, you know, obviously the sport needs it.
Yeah. So his question was, what kind of ministry opportunities are there in NASCAR? Is there anything like that going on? And we do have a great program called Motor Racing Outreach, where they do chapels at the track every Sunday. They take care of the drivers' kids and try to go out into the community. We do a lot of speaking events at the track where we go and, you know, they set up a big tent and they call fans in and we'll talk to them about our faith and what it means in our sport. But for people to get involved, I mean, that's the best way to get involved in the ministry there, is just with Motor Racing Outreach. They're great friends of ours. They helped us set up our Bible study at the track, which is huge to me, to have accountability around me. I've got probably, like I said, 7 other drivers: Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I'm sorry, not Elliott Sadler. Now I'm going through the points list. So Justin Allgaier, Michael McDowell, a couple other guys that are in there, Blake Cook, Josh Wise. They're so awesome, and that accountability is huge. So to have people like Motor Racing Outreach that are there at the track with you, that know what you go through, is a big deal for us.
Hey Trevor, what was going through your mind the last laps as the Daytona 500 was wound down?
The last laps of the Daytona 500 were the longest, I don't know, 50 seconds of my life, because I'm sitting here, I'm driving around the racetrack, looking in my rearview mirror, and I just, you know, led the white flag lap, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I can tell my friends I led the last lap of the Daytona 500, and I never thought that I was going to win it. I felt like I was kind of sitting out there in the open just for somebody to come by me, so I was looking in the rearview mirror just trying to figure out when they were going to make the move, and somehow we held them off. But as soon as I crossed the line, it felt like a dream. You know, I yelled out on the radio, "Are you kidding me?" Because, I mean, how does that happen? You know, how does the Wood Brother team, that's the oldest team in NASCAR, get to go to victory lane with the youngest driver in the sport? And just, man, that was so special. Victory lane there was Richard Petty's in there, you know, Carl Edwards, Jeff Gordon, Kurt Busch, you know, every single driver on the lineup was in victory lane to congratulate us, and that was the coolest feeling to me, just getting those guys around us, and then just, like I said before, seeing God's power in that, knowing that there was no way that I was supposed to win that race. I cannot take any kind of credit in the world for winning the Daytona 500, because I know I shouldn't have, and to see God's power in that, to me, is just something that's really incredible. To me, it's almost as big as seeing Him heal somebody's sickness, or somebody getting up off the ground and walking that's crippled, because there is no way that should have been. So that was special to me.
Did you make a deal with God on that last lap?
Make a deal with Him? Yeah, that's one of those moments where you get those foxhole prayers, and you're like, I promise I will never do this again if you just let me win this race. So, yeah, I was definitely thinking that kind of stuff.
How do you talk maybe to the young people? How do you deal with their unbelievers? There are people that you come in contact with. I saw it in the media after you won the race. There are people that don't believe what you believe.
Yeah.
How do you, I mean, how, that's on a magnified scale from what our teenagers deal with and people in school, you know, how do you
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest things in our sport, and you know, we have a lot of fans that are not Christians. We have a lot of media people that aren't Christians, and that goes back to your value and just making sure that you stay firm in that, because we know we believe it for a reason. We know that Christ has power in our lives. We know that He's changed our lives and just really molded us. So It is hard though. There's times, you know, when I'd be posting a Bible verse and I'd be like, well, there goes 150 followers, you know, and so I knew that was going to be a struggle. But to me, it goes straight back to that group of people that I have around me, and it goes right back to that prayer life and that being in the Word. Without those people around me, those accountability people, holding me up, making sure that I'm using every platform, making sure that I'm not falling into temptation. Believe it or not, we have a lot of temptations. I mean, just like anybody else. There's girls, there's money, there's everything that you can imagine as a young person at school, we have at racetracks, and there's access to it. And so for us, it's just so big to call each other out on it, and we do it in a gentle way. You know, we're not yelling at each other or being mean about it, but you've got to have accountability around you that's going to, you know, tell you how it really is. And so those guys, if I ever did an interview and somebody asked me about Christ and I blew it off, then they would see it and they would say, Trevor, what are you doing, man? So those guys are big for me, but it is really tough. You know, I guess I'm going through a lot right now. My family is having a lot going on, so I'm trying to think of how to say this to all you young people. I would just say, for most of you young people, that we've got to guard what we let come into ourselves. We've got to guard our hearts. There's a Bible verse in I think it's Matthew 6:22 that talks about what goes in your eyes. You know, it's what fills your body. You can either have light or you can have darkness in your body. And if it's so important, and I keep talking about it, how important it is to stay in the Word and to stay in prayer and to stay around people that are going to hold you accountable, because I haven't at times. As a young person, as a 21-year-old, I've gone through temptations where I've been like, God, it's just this one area of my life. It's just one little thing. Like, I'm great in all these areas. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do these things. It's just, let me have this little piece. You know, there's this little piece of joy here that I think I need to chase, or happiness. It's not really joy. And it's so deceiving. And I think sometimes we forget so much about spiritual warfare, that there is spiritual warfare going on, that the devil wants to come and get us. It says he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And we give him that one little area of our lives. And then that Ephesians 6 armor that it says to put up, you know, it talks about this armor that we're supposed to have around our field. You know, we have 100 acres set up and we're putting up our armor, but if we give him one little acre of our field, one little area of our lives, then now he's on the inside of our armor. And he's going to work his way out. He's going to manifest himself. He's going to build himself up in there where it's going to just take over your life. One little temptation at a time, one little thing that we let in can just grow and just be such a stronghold in our lives. So for everybody in here, I would just say that we got to guard ourselves, that we got to pay attention to what we're surrounded by, to what we're listening to, you know, what we're around, to our girlfriends. You know, there's so many temptations with little things that can just grow in your life. So you got to guard it right when it's happening. You can't just let it go for a while and think you're going to be strong enough, because we're not strong enough. You know, no matter how hard we think we are, the devil is a little bit stronger. But the good news is, if we're filled with the Spirit and we're filled with Christ, he's even stronger than that. So that's what we got to do. Hey, you guys got to have something. Come on. Anything. Racing questions.
All right, over here.
Walk questions. What you got?
Do you ever feel like being a Christian is not politically correct, is not PC? And even with all your opportunities, do you feel like your outspoken for Christ has cost you some opportunities?
I'm sure at some points that me being outspoken for Christ has cost me opportunities. I mean, for instance, this season we've been searching for sponsorship for my Nationwide and Cup cars, and there have been companies that have come on board that, you know, maybe they're borderline, maybe they're, you know, maybe it would water down my testimony, or maybe it wouldn't. But at that point, if you're saying maybe it's going to water down my testimony, then you can't take that opportunity. So yeah, if I wasn't an outspoken Christian this year, I probably could have been racing full time. And it is hard. It's definitely not. I think it's becoming a cooler thing to be a Christian. Not that that's why we do it, but I think with other athletes, with other people stepping up and saying, "Hey, I'm a Christian, and this is why, and I'm not going to change for anybody." It definitely makes it easier for everybody. I mean, there's Jamie Lynn, Tim Tebow, Bubba Watson. You know, I don't know if I put myself in that category, but there's people that are making it politically correct or cooler to be a Christian. Like I said, not that that matters at all, but it is hard to stand out when you're on your own, and it is hard to just stand up and say, "This is what I believe." But we just got to keep pushing, you know.
I'd like to thank you for that. I have children, And we need more people like you out there saying, hey, this is the way we need to lead. This is the way we need to show all our children how to live and how to be. And there should be more people like you that's in the media and in the public eye telling these kids that. Thank you.
Thank you. What made me want to race? I think speed was in my bloodline somewhere because my grandfather raced boats, my other grandfather raced cars, and then when I was 3 years old I was on a dirt bike riding wheelies around with training wheels on it. So about the time they took the training wheels off when I was 4 and I started crashing everywhere, they figured they better get me a go-kart and better put me back on 4 wheels. So that's kind of how I got into racing. I think my parents were a little bit worried about me crashing on the dirt bike too much. And the first time I went to the track, actually this is a pretty good story. So I'm at the racetrack, I'm 5 years old, the kid I'm going to race against is 8 years old, so he's been racing a couple years longer than, a couple years already, and my dad said, all right Trevor, so here's what I want you to do, just go out there, don't worry about it, he's been racing, and just do whatever you can to keep up. So I took it literally, and as soon as I went on the racetrack, I looked, 10 laps into the race, I looked across and he's already got a half lap on me, so I just cut through the infield. I hung the lap, went through the infield, bounced off the walls, came back across, and I spent the whole race trying to catch him running through the middle of the racetrack. I never caught him, and I was pretty upset when I didn't win, but so I've come a long way, I guess, since that race. It is hot in here, I know that. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. No, this is, I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, so I don't know, I haven't spent much time here, but it doesn't seem too much different. You guys are, seem like really great people, and this is something that I love to see, is just the family side of it. That's something that I had for a long time until I was about 15 when I moved to North Carolina. And it's definitely something that I miss, being around my parents all the time. Even though I got to see them every weekend at the racetrack, my dad has only missed one race in my whole career. So I've got really supportive parents, and it means a lot to me to see families like this still together, still doing traditional things, and still having a good time together, and just being here to spend time with God. And that's a big deal to go somewhere with no TVs for a little while, and probably not much cell phone service. So thank you guys for doing that. How do I deal with it? Well, that's a tough balance. We've got a guy that races right now that we've been hanging out with. We're training for a triathlon. Even though I'm sweating like this right now, it doesn't look like it. But we've been training for a triathlon for a little bit, and he's a guy that just doesn't care that we're Christians. He'll cuss as much as he wants to, and do whatever he wants to. And instead of, I guess you could go two ways with that. At that point, you could kind of push back against him and be like, just call him out and whatever. But we've kind of taken the other approach, and we've just loved on the guy. We've showed him that we're not just some crazy Christians that are trying to push whatever we have on him. We're trying to show him that Christ makes a difference in our life, and that what we're selling is what we really believe. It's not something that we're just saying, or something that's we think is cool. I think he's starting to see that already. He's been hanging out with us and going on rides with us with our Bible group, and I think it's you notice little things, like he'll stop cussing as much, or the other day he wanted to name our team some Greek god name or something, and nobody responded to him, and he's like, oh, I should have known better. So it's just little pieces that are rubbing off on him, and he's starting to see why Christ is such an important part of our lives and how much better it makes our lives. Because if you're living in sin, it seems great. You get to do what you want to. You can go party it up or live the lifestyle that you want to live. And I think people just think that as Christians we're kind of stuck up and don't get to have fun. But as soon as they see that he's actually telling us those rules and telling us those things to make our lives better, I think once they start seeing that, then they kind of get it. And so that's what we always go for, is just to love on the people and just to show them Christ's love and not give up on them. It's so easy to get frustrated with them, but you got to keep going with them.